What's happening, fam? L.A.R movement still moving. Should Black America leave America? Having a conversation with my homeboy because I thought about this yesterday. Um, and I said to myself, this should just be it has to be an option, you know, because in my opinion, it seems like what we're trying to do here has never been done before, from my recollection. And I don't recall, I can't think off the top of my head really of a culture of people, of a people who are quote unquote the minority, quote unquote, and oppressed by another group in a land that wasn't their own, quote unquote, and was able to rise up to a certain amount of power to not be oppressed anymore. It doesn't, I, I don't see it. For some Christians that use the biblical reference, you know, Egyptians and Hebrews, they were the same race of people, just two different religions. And for Hebrews, they had to leave to go to the promised land. People had to die off in the wilderness or whatever because of, people's attachment to they couldn't let Pharaoh go, even though they were going somewhere away, completely away from Pharaoh. They just couldn't let him go. So I get that part of it also. But they couldn't find they couldn't have what they were looking for in Egypt. It just wasn't going to happen. Sometimes we talk about, the unity and the financial power of the Jewish community, and part of that problem is the same thing. Um, they didn't. That is not how. Once they got oppressed in Germany, that was it. I don't think people talk about Jewish people being so powerful in Germany, or people can see them actually being powerful in Germany. I said this a time or two before in another video. I don't think people would say, if they would have stayed in Germany, they would have become what business-wise what we know them as to be today. I don't see it happening. They had to leave, and they didn't mind leaving. Now, like I said before with the Egyptians and the Hebrews, same thing with the Jews and the Germans. You got two people of the same race, different religions, but the oppressed, who became the minority in that situation, could not um, overpower the oppressor in that situation. They even have a standoff with them. Same thing with the Egyptians and the Hebrews. They couldn't even have a standoff with them. In sense, using that biblical reference, Egypt was never the same, right? Because the power was in the quote unquote Hebrews and the slaves. It wasn't in the pharaohs, because they couldn't get that shit done. Germany, after the Holocaust, has never really been quote unquote a powerhouse. You know, because they didn't have the they didn't have the people that they oppressed to be able to live off of. You know, So I say, maybe it should just be on the table for us to, you know, finish what Marcus Garvey started. At the end of the day, all of the oppression and the problems that go along with being in this country, somewhat, in some way, deal with oppression. So if we're not here, what are they going to do? They're going to oppress us. They're going to be, because ultimately I think they're just going to be mad and they're going to throw a party if we left. Like, yeah, they gone. But then it wouldn't work out the same, because the money we generate, they can't live off anymore. Like, I think the same thing would happen to America that has happened to, quote unquote, Egypt biblically, or Germany. Maybe it wouldn't collapse, but it would be on a downward spiral. It would never be at the level it is now at all. And everybody said, sometimes they say we need to come to the table. We need to pick ourselves up and come to the table so we can get a seat at the table. And I'm like, well, if we get on our own, maybe we just don't want to sit at the table. We don't care, acknowledge the table. Just, you know, we've been, we've been serving the table for so long. Why even go sit at it? That's just my thought about that. Now, I remember having a friend when I was a kid. He always wanted us to come play basketball in his backyard. And he would always, you know, cheat or bullshit. He would always have these strange rules that that everybody had to follow. Even his family would come out and be like, "What are you talking about? Like, how, these your friends ain't coming over. You gonna keep this up?" And he felt, part of his power, because we were kids, was in the fact that I got the ball. Well, y'all could have a ball too. That didn't matter. But I got the goal, and I got the backyard to play in. And at some point, it got so bad that even when he asked us to come, no, thank you. You can play by yourself. And the power, and then it wasn't as exciting by himself. Then it wasn't, all these rules and regulations when it was by itself. We played when it was miniature little goals that was about this big with the little ball, and we would rather play on that. And then we'd rather walk to a different court and play at that court, because that's when it was we didn't have to deal with the bullshit. So sometimes it's okay to walk away. All the law enforcement issues, the governmental policies, um, the unemployment, the rampant issues. Because not to say if we took that option and left, we wouldn't have problems, because that's a lie. But he would slowly be able to, within our own group, quote unquote, let the people who still want to be attached to Pharaoh die off, or go back and live in that situation. If they chose to stay, or left and then wanted to go back because they just was addicted to the oppression. But I'm saying this because I think it should at least be an option. It should be on the table, because it seems like, in every scenario, the best way to get out of a bad relationship is to leave it. And this is not a good relationship. So maybe it should be an option. We're not married to the country necessarily. We don't have to divorce it, but we could leave it. Like, just like you leave a person who's just not good for you. But that's what I'm just thinking. Peace.